Oh, okay. Apparently it was muted. All right, we'll start over. Hi, welcome to Diane Writes. And thanks for the follow there, BC Brown Books. Because you're new to the channel, we do writing streams Wednesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, and Sundays. I do the ones on every day but Saturday. It starts at this time, noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. UTC. I usually figure out everything from there. And Aaron, my husband, does writing stream on Saturdays at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. UTC. He also does Ask an Old GM, which is where you can ask him questions about game mastering and role-playing games, and that happens on Tuesdays and Fridays at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. UTC. And then on Sunday nights, we play a game in my Toy Soldier Saga universe. I can never get this right. Okay, so the image, the book image in the middle. Right, we use the Pathfinder role-playing system, and that happens at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, I think, what is that, 2 o'clock in the morning UTC, something like that. Yeah, so welcome! Today, I'm doing two things, right? First of all, I'm behind on stuff that I need to get done for my Kickstarter fulfillment, right? And stuff that I need to do for my patrons, and that is put up the next Toy Soldier Saga story on manuscripts on World Anvil. Hey Kit, nice to see you. I guess I should say hi to everybody, actually. When did I do that first? Alright, hello James, first in the chat by like an hour or more this time. Hello Siobhan, who didn't even bother. She just came in and said, how you doing, James? Yep, that's how you deal with my chat, for sure. And then Kahuna raided. Thank you very much for the raid. Aloha indeed. And with Kahuna's crew came in Masadi's. Hello. And Fleece Comrade. Hello, hello. And Gwen. Always a pleasure. And Satrium. Hello. And Author Goddess. Your brain is... Yeah, that's my brain. That's how it works. For sure. Alright, and yeah, that's everybody who said hi. So, yeah, okay, so today I'm doing two things, right? First of all, like I said, my patrons are owed a Toy Soldier Saga story. They voted that rather than start right away on the second book, I should give them a story that happens after about part 2 in book 2. So that is intended to happen today, so I figured I might as well do that by putting the collection of stories, which I just put together for the Kickstarter, onto World Anvil's manuscripts. The first story, The Queen's Dirk, is already available as a prose article, so I'm just going to make that available to the public. And then after that, I will put up Survivor, which is the story, and that will only be available to patrons. So, and then after that, I will start book 2. So that is how that is going to work. So I gotta get that done today, but I'm also working on the 31 Days, 31 Stories challenge. And speaking of which, hello Angstaze, thank you very much for the raid. Angstaze is also doing the 31 Days, 31 Stories challenge. Hello there, Link the Twunk. I love it. How are you? Let's shout out my raiders, shall I? Kahuna, if you're not familiar with him, does writing and world building streams every weekday starting at 8-ish Pacific time, so 11 a.m. Eastern, and he's fun. His streams are always cool. And then Angstaze, like I said, is also doing the 31 Days, 31 Stories challenge. She does writing streams pretty much every day while this is going on as well, and they start at various times though. What time do you usually start, Angst? Let people know, because I wanna let them know. She writes some really, like, she's a good writer. She writes some good stuff. It's there was a slice of life story that she was working on for a while, which was excellent, called Missing the Boat, which is now available to purchase. And she also is currently working on a fantasy series, which I find really fascinating because she's getting into the psychology of gods. And her principal thesis is, okay, so what if the world were a grad project that gods had to do in order to graduate to being real gods? And I'm like, I mean, and it's intense because she gets into the real consequences for the people who are like living in this world, the mortal people. And thank you very much for the raid, James. Your raid of 1. Tigers protect House Lappin. Awesome, thank you. Yeah, House Lappin, other way. Should have known. No. That way. There we go. Right, is the house that I lead in the Game of Tomes, which is a competition, friendly competition for writers on Twitch that happens during the Camp Nano months. Okay, other months on Angstaze is 1400 to 1600 Eastern time. So that'd be, what, 11 a.m. Pacific to 1 p.m. Pacific. So yeah, awesome. Nope, that's not right. My brain here. Count back 1 o'clock p.m. Pacific. Yeah, okay. Alright, so that's 2 things. One, the first thing, like I said, put the story collection up. The second thing I have to do is I'm working on the 31 Days, 31 Stories challenge. I'm behind, but I have an idea for this story here. And the reason why you're listening to Western music is I thought I would put you guys to work on it for me to help me figure it out. Right? It says, a horse takes the carriage down the wrong path, despite the direction of the driver, or use this sentence, the unmistakable sound of hooves hitting cobblestone drew the attention of those sitting in the room. And to me that says, in my universe, that is a Weird West story. So the Weird West is a post-apocalyptic weird western that takes place in Saskatchewan. And I've written several serial stories in it. I haven't written in it in a while. And this is perfect because I need a story that happens in Queenstown, which is where the original stories take place. And that is, I'm looking for, it's weird western, so it's western with fantasy elements and whatnot, but it's post-apocalyptic, our world, right? So there's elements of our world and our culture that remain. The main characters are gunslingers, which are sort of a paladin with guns, right? And their purpose is to help protect people from supernatural threats, right? So what I want is a story that takes place in Queenstown where Graham, the usual protagonist, Graham Walsh, is doing the duties of being a gunslinger, which is to say there's something that happens in the town that is, it might be caused by something supernatural. So the cops call him in to investigate, right? And so that's what I'm kind of doing with this. And basically what I need to know are things like what the supernatural threat is and what they did that makes it, if they are supernatural, makes the police think that it's supernatural, right? And I need something that could look natural but would be difficult. So part of the challenge is to figure out whether or not it actually is supernatural. This business with the horse taking the carriage down the wrong path strikes me as something maybe done in The Pursuit. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts about what you think, the supernatural threat might be, or other ideas. Help me brainstorm, in other words. And that is why you were listening to Western music. I guess we'll start with Anstase's showcase, though, which is helpful, and then from there I will work on stuff with the short story collection, inputting it while we're brainstorming. I'm hoping to deal with the situation, like the story in hour 2 or somewhere around there. So Rowan says, how about a lycanthrope? That's a good idea. Shape changer's always fun. Hard to find in the populace. They look like everybody else, right? So that's cool. You did the other prompt that day? Yeah, that's cool. I mean, like, these were, as far as I can see, these were both the prompts. Is there a place that there's prompts that I'm missing? Because some of these I've really been straining on. I'm like, okay, I like the idea, but I don't want to use that sentence, Oh, there is another one. Okay, cool. Well, let's have a look. Let's check that out. Thank you. Thank you for your help. Onst is like one of the people who's responsible for helping to organize this, so. Oh, this is your story. Okay. Oh, it's the same link. Okay. All right. And this is the showcase. All right. Let's do it then. I'm going to put the sprint timer up for those of you who are doing writing sprints. And we'll get into this. It's a better view of Aunt's story anyway. Perhaps a Black Widow spider? Ooh! Killed her husband, did she? For his money? I don't know. That seems the logical. I don't know, though. I'm a little... Because I already did that whole thing with the Widow Brinks in the first round of stories, and I don't want to get hung up on the, women are gonna murder their husband trope, right? I don't know, right? Like, it feels like too much right now. Do Black Widows live in Saskatchewan, says Angsaze? Yes, Black Widows live all over Canada. There are Black Widows here. Yeah, you bet. It's not a problem for to have Black Widows available, Black Widow spiders, for sure. I mean, could be. Darn, yeah, because then it would be easy to spot. Hey, wait a minute, that's a Black Widow. What is a Black Widow doing here? Yeah, no, it would be perfectly logical. Yeah, I'd rather not have them. Yeah, me too. Aaron is the one who typically deals with them because he was bitten by one when he was a kid, so they already gave him the anti-venom, so he has like more resistance to it than we do. So when there's a black widow that needs to be moved, I tell him. I don't like killing spiders. I kind of like spiders. I got kind of a totemic relationship with them, right? So I do that. I don't mind dealing with any other spider. I don't have a problem with that. Just those ones I know. They're fast and aggressive and dangerous, right? Oh, perhaps she kills another woman so she can take her husband. Oh, that has hope. That's cool. BC Brown says, if they don't, are you going to be brave enough to tell them they can't? Yeah, no doubt. And hey, I should ask, first of all, what are your pronouns, and are you okay with me calling you BC Brown, or just Brown? And, yeah, is the BC because you live in BC? Because so do I. Or is that initials? So that's cool. Monad says black widows live everywhere men die and also where women die, but statistically fewer. That's interesting. Okay. Yeah, BC Brown agrees with me. Spiders are beneficial, and they mostly just like hanging out and leaving people alone. Yeah, if you leave them alone, they'll leave you alone. I don't have anything with them living in my basement. That usually isn't an issue, right? Living in my pantry, I have a problem with because I have to grab things. So, and they will jump at you if they think that, you know, you're going to threaten them, right? So, but yeah, leave them alone. They'll leave you alone. There's no reason to, yeah. Oh, hey. Yeah, sorry, you're an invasive species. We can't admit you, says Zogstaze. Yeah, pretty much. Oh, Links in Ontario. All right, Canadian pride. Cool. Hello, Right Idea. Good to see you. Yeah, Ongstaze too. Yeah, she's like, yeah, Link is like, Ontarians rise up. And yeah, what's your pronouns too? I should get that right. Ongstaze says too hot to rise up. Yeah, I'm sure it's horrible in Ontario right now. So. Yeah, and then Rowan says, or a rival for a beauty contest. That's a possibility. Ooh, actually, I kind of like that one. I kind of like that one, because that's got, I could go whodunit on that one a bit. He, him, of the male, sex, and gender. Gotcha, Link. But Southern Ontario is not on fire, so there's that. Yeah, there's that. It's not on fire like BC. It's only 29 where I am. It's 31 here right now. It's supposed to get much hotter today. Yeah. I don't know. But it hasn't yet, and it's noon, so I'm not sure it's going to. Yeah, okay, so I like the beauty contest thing because you'd have all the beauty contest contestants, and there'd sort of be the locked room mystery kind of element to it, where you could be dealing with, you know, one of them did it, or the AIDS did it, or something like that, right? But which one? That has possibilities. Okay, I like it. Yeah, the carriage going down the wrong area against the wishes of the driver, I thought as possibly being something like Lightning Graham's sentient horse, right? The horses are sentient, right? But they don't talk because they're horses. They don't have the right mouth for it. So you kind of got to guess what they're thinking and saying by body language, which can be fun. It's fun to write, I can tell you that, right? I figured he might be undercover as a carriage horse in order to try to catch the villain, right? And then he hears or sees something and goes down another alley, and that's part of the chase that catches the bad guy or something. So I thought, but that was my vague idea. Rowan says it's really warm outside, but inside my tiny house it's cool enough that I have a blanket on my lap. Yeah, cool that it actually is that cool. That's nice. Insulation is good, you know that. Link has a blanket on too. Right Idea says that they broke 20,000 words in their work in progress. Yay! That's awesome. Yeah, I can't afford to leave the air conditioning on either. Okay, let's do Ongstaze's showcase. I'm actually eager to read her work. I always enjoy it. Gertizane should have been suspicious, the Ace supposed, when the 4 young people boarded her Leoforum carriage. It wasn't so much the way the boys were dressed in short tunics that flashed their codpieces every time they moved, or how revealing a sideless surcoat the girl wore. That was the fashion these days among humans, and they knew better than to think it wouldn't spread to the youths of other peoples within a few years. It was none of her business what her riders wore or didn't. It wasn't the way they laughed with and jostled one another either, as if sharing a joke that lesser beings like a carriage driver could never understand. It wasn't even the fact that they had boarded in the university district, but the fare they paid was to the foundries outside the city walls. Any of those things might have a perfectly reasonable explanation. The explanation probably would have come down to humans are impetuous at the best of times and they break free of adult supervision far too young. But it would have been an explanation. That's kind of an awkward sentence there, I'm not sure. At least it would have been an explanation, maybe? It couldn't expect too much, though. Humans were elderly before an elf of the same age would be trusted on their own. Yeah, that's the problem with elves, eh? It didn't matter. Driving the Leoforum carriage, there we go, Leoforum, put Gertizane in contact with all sorts of people. It didn't have to like all of them. As long as they paid their fare and didn't upset the horses or bother other passengers, all Gertizane needed to do was drive the carriage. It had irregulars, of course. There was that nice girl who rode with him sometimes from the university to Spurkus, one of the meanest districts in Capital. To be sure, if I tried to draw her out with a question, I might not understand half the answer. Still, she never looked down on him the way these 4 were doing. She always thanked him when she disembarked, and they did her the favor of not asking why she visited one of the city's most notorious diversion houses on a regular basis. It was none of her business where people wanted to travel. Gertizane's job was simply to stick to the fixed route assigned her Leoforum carriage and stop to let the people on and off. All day long, from the university to the gate, through the eastern wall, and on past the dyers and tanners to the foundries. In the morning and the evening, the 16 seats of the Leoforum carriage might be crowded with laborers hired for the day in one of the stinking businesses that had been relegated outside the city walls. Yeah, it makes sense. It was after sunset now, though. Gertizane's last trip of the day was frequently completely lacking in passengers. Perhaps that was another reason they should have been suspicious of the youths. So we know their trouble. A had warned them, as they paid the fare and scrambled into the carriage, that they might be stranded outside the walls. The gate guards would wait for Gertizane's return before locking up for the night, but anybody later would be required to wait for morning or go around to the north gate to enter the city. Gertizane's salary might not stretch very far after paying for stabling and food for the horses and a room above the stables for himself, but buying the gate guards a round of drinks every week or so was very much worth the cost. Yeah, I imagine. Yeah, little bits of courtesy like carrying love tokens between the hostler's daughter and an apprentice at the tannery, or bringing a jug of still hot fumé from one of the dwarf-run restaurants to the dwarf who watched the foundry at night went a long way. That sounds tasty. The youths had laughed and said it wouldn't be an issue. It would have been too much to expect courtesy from them. Gertizane paid no attention to the youths' laughing chatter. It was late, and they was tired, and the fashionable young fools were welcome to gossip about whatever party they planned to attend. There were no other passengers waiting at the mansions. Mansions? Do you intend that either, or is that a typo? In each neighborhood, though Constance and Pacatus stopped at each one. They were good horses, solid and reliable, worth several times the value of some overprivileged human, perhaps. At each mansio, okay, so you did intend that, okay? They waited for a quiet walk on, then resumed their accustomed route. Outside the walls, lighting was less frequent. Each mansio was marked with torches, but darkness stretched between those puddles of illumination. Pacatus and Constance paced on, metal-shod hooves clopping against the cut-stone road. Gertizane heard movement behind him and felt another body settle itself on the bench beside him. A frowned and glanced aside. It was the girl. "Please remain in the passenger area, milady." "That won't be necessary." She was wearing too much perfume, a clashing mixture of florals and resin. Hey, Bob. Good to see you. I'm afraid it is, milady. Gerda ducked her head in submission they did not feel. Policy, you understand. She sidled closer to him on the bench and draped an arm around him in a way that might have felt intrusive even during cyclo? Okay. She fluttered eyelashes that must have been darkened with some foreign substance and said, I had hoped you might do me a favor. I'm sorry, ma'am. Gerda kept her tone polite. I'm afraid I really must insist. Can we please do this the easy way? The young human sighed dramatically. Just turn here. I thought you understood that this is a fixed route service? Gerda wished these requests were less common. It was always the rich ones, too, who could have just hired a private carriage in the first place. We've already gone most of the way, the woman wheedled. Even her breath was perfumed. Gerda shook her head. This is a fixed route service, ma'am, and the last trip of the day. I'm willing to take you back to the Central Mancio, where you can hire a private carriage, but I will not be deviating from my route. More noise behind him. The girl sighed again. We're the only ones on this vulgar cart. You admitted you don't have another trip after this, so just take us to the lodge Sukon rented, and we'll make it worth your while. This is a shared service, milady. There may be people at the mansions ahead who are relying on the service. There wouldn't be. There never were. But there could be. Then they should have planned better. More weight on the other side of him, 3 people on a bench designed for 2. Stop flirting, Vlatka. He's an elf. It's not going to work. Don't use my name, the girl hissed. Why not? You already told him we were going to Sukon's party. I did not. Besides, he probably wouldn't have remembered. Oh, yeah, if you're wanting to make me hate these arrogant people, you have succeeded. I don't like them at all. And Milord, milady, if you will return to the passenger area, and if we don't, elf, the boy, it was the one with the blue and black hose that didn't match his doublet, shoved him into the girl. What are you going to do about it? Pacatus flicked his ears, but the horse continued walking. Please, milord, just return to the passenger area. Gerda knew better than to leave the whip in its socket. Rhiannon had lectured him a dozen times that if they needed it in an emergency, it wouldn't have time to grab it. Now the young woman was between him and it. Maybe you should return to the passenger area. The young man made a grab for the reins. Willibald, get him out of the way, would you? And misgendering, too. Hands pulled at Gerda from behind. It fought him off, but soon the hands returned with one of the blankets provided for passengers to cover their laps against the chill. It was smelly and rough as the man threw it over Gerda's head like a net and wrestled him back into the passenger area. Another body, probably the 3rd human man, sat on him. Gerda felt the cart slow to a stop. No, you stupid horses! It was the first young man's voice, the one with the hose. We don't need to stop and let people on. There's nobody here anyway. Just get them moving again, the young woman. Probably the young woman said, right? Yeah. You think I'm not trying? The sound of reins being shaken. Giddy up, damn it! Giddy up? Another man's voice, mocking. Really? Well, what do you want me to say? Let's go, horses! The carriage continued not to move. Gerda didn't bother trying to fight off the human on top of him. All they'd get for her trouble would be bruises. The human atop him punched her shoulder anyway. What's the magic word? Please? A harder punch. To get the horses moving, you idiot leaf eater. Oh. Gerda tried to shift to a more comfortable position under the human. Walk on. You heard him, the man on top of Gerda called. Yeah, I did. More rein slapping. Walk on. The carriage lurched back into motion, though the steady pace of hoofbeats was as smooth as ever. Gerda lay as quietly as they could, giving the jostling of the wheels over every irregularity in the road. Turn them around, you walnut, the woman's voice. I'm trying. Gerda could hear, you've got a typo there, you need the A there, could hear reins swinging wildly. The whip cracked, and one of the horses broke pace to kick at the irritation. Still, they knew what they were about, the horses. They kept walking. You need to use the reins to steer, not to hit them. Yeah, if you think it's so easy, you do it. Fine, give them to me. There was creaking as the young humans traded position on the driver's seat, but the horses continued walking. Gerda breathed shallowly inside the blanket. It really needed to hire somebody to wash them more. It smelled as if somebody had urinated on this one. Angry snorts and jingling harnesses were the only evidence of the youth's attempts to change the route. Wait, Gerda thought it was the second man's voice, though A didn't suppose it mattered. Before you start them again, let me get out and try to turn them that way. Fine, though I don't understand how they can have such unmanageable horses on a public route. The carriage rocked as the man jumped to the ground. Gerda heard stamping and jingling as the horses objected to his attempts to grab their hackamores. Nice, I'm glad it's hackamores and not bits. The man must not have been a complete idiot. Gerda caught snatches of soothing words whispered as the horses finally allowed themselves to be led in a large circle around the benches of the Mancio. Gerda? It recognized Uvat's voice quite nearby. Were you going to leave without even saying? You're not, Gerda. No, we're not. The young man wasn't even a good liar. He's off for the night, so I'm filling in. Just taking these passengers back to town. No, you're not. Uvat was not stupid, though these young hooligans might be. Not with Constance and Pacatus. Where is he? Uvat! Gerda called. The man on top of him punched him again, but it was worth it. Where are we? Uvat was not a stupid woman. She wouldn't rush the carriage, one dwarf against 4 human youths. Gerda heard a bell peal, the one by the well, the one that was loud enough to wake all the craftspeople sleeping through the night. By the time the youths figured out what was happening, they were surrounded by metalworkers, as well as a few from Pella's tannery, who were not at all pleased to have their sleep interrupted. 3 of them submitted to the inevitable, the man atop Gerda climbing off and submitting to be bound. Did the youths try not to get away? It takes some time to get up and get dressed, at least enough to put some pants on, and run out the door, find out what's going on, and then deal with a problem, right? So, surely they would have had time to at least try to wrench the horses around. I don't know if they would have succeeded. It sounds like the horses are not very cooperative to these people, which is cool. And that's perfectly within horse behavior. If they've developed a special bond with Gerda, then they know something's wrong. Horses aren't stupid. They're especially aware of dangers and troubles. So, they're not cars. They're not just going to go where you put it, in the key and drive, right? So that makes sense that they would have trouble. But you should probably describe that a bit. Okay. I mean, it only needs a paragraph or even a line or two just to say, the one youth with the hose was yelling, "Turn around, you stupid horses!" Yeah. Anyway. Gerda climbed out of the back of the carriage in time to... Oh, wait, no. Yeah, okay. Gerda climbed out of the back of the carriage in time to see the last confrontation between the girl and Uvat. The human had more reach and a knife. Oh, I see, so the fighting is going on, but... Okay, we need a little bit more play-by-play then of the struggle, I think, just with... I realize Gerda blind and can't see what's going on, but Gerda can infer a lot by noise, and could be, hearing people yell and thumps against the carriage and guess what's going on based on that. Also, I'll point out that Gerda reaction seems very understated. To be, oh shit, the whip's over there and I can't reach it, Then to be bound up in this blanket. I knew I should have had, less trouble in an emergency. We've got no comment at all about how they feel about it, or how A feels about it, and therefore our reactions are coming across like, yeah, whatever, you'll be dealt with. I don't even care, which would unnerve me if I were pulling something like this, which of course I wouldn't, but if I were, I'd be like, what's going on here that I don't know about, for one thing, right? And so I don't know if that's intended, but if it isn't some more description about fear, and their feelings. We're seeing this from the third person personal point of view. Everything's being described from Gerda Zane's point of view, and therefore one of the things that should be described is how Gerda Zane feels. So yeah, more of that, unless you're intending for Gerda Zane to come across like, yeah, whatever, in totally blasé, in which case you're doing fine. Okay. All right, back here. Gerda Zane climbed out of the back of the carriage in time to see the last confrontation between the girl and Uvat. The human had more reach and a knife. The dwarf had more experience and a sturdy staff. How does Gerda Zane know? It's difficult to tell what the level of experience is. If you're going to have that happen, like, Gerda Zane doesn't strike me as a martial artist, so I don't think they can just look at a situation and go, okay, that's what's going on. There have to be tells that tell them that this is what the deal is, so you should include those. How does they know, right? Yeah. Okay. Vlatka clutched her empty knife hand to her chest, looking betrayed. Nathan and Edmund from the tannery. Oh yeah. Knife and staff. Okay. This is something I don't expect people to know, right? Okay, in the confrontation between a knife and a staff, obviously the staff has more reach, right? But knife wounds are dangerous, right? If she's gonna fight with a knife, then she has to try to get closer than the reach of the staff, and the staff is the best example. If you're telling me here that the dwarf disarmed her by smacking the knife out of her hand with the staff, then again we need to have that described, and because otherwise it's a bit confusing. Like, I've gathered that's what's going on, but it's like I feel like I'm watching this battle in like clips where it's, the stream is skipping and I've missed important bits, right? So yeah, I would like to hear about that. And the other thing is, that would be really hard. A knife being small and light moves much faster than a staff. A staff requires space to swing, or even if you're using it like a quarterstaff, that makes it move a little faster, but it limits what you can do, right? And so disarming her, I mean, it's possible, right? He has more experience, you said so. Obviously he's a trained staff fighter. But describe it, right? Tell us, he moved lightning fast, something like that. Something that surprises Gerda Zane. Okay. Vlatka clutched her empty knife hand to her chest, looking betrayed. Nathan and Edmund from the tannery used strips of rawhide to bind her elbows behind her back. There you go. Thank you for all your help, Gerda Zane said. I'm sorry for the disruption. Grunts of acknowledgement. Craftspeople helped the bound youths into the back of the Leophorium carriage, made a last scan of the area to make sure nothing more was on fire. You're just speaking figuratively there, right? Not literally. They're not looking for fire. I've seen nothing that suggests there would be fire. And returned to their quarters. Thank you, Gerda Zane told Uvat. The dwarf looked at him sternly. It's not thanks I want. Gerda Zane nodded solemnly and reached under the seat. Ae unwrapped the spare blankets, both of which smelled much better than the one that had been used to restrain him, from the still warm jug of fumé. Ae presented it to Uvat with a bow. For you, my lady. I knew I saved you for a reason, Uvat grinned. Are you going to be okay on your way back? Sure, Gerda Zane smiled back. I'll just have a chat with the gate guards when I get there. I owe them a drink anyway. Any idea what they wanted from you? The dwarf uncorked the jug and took a swig. A ride to a party, I think. Uvat shook her head. I suppose so. They really thought they could get Clemens and Pacatus off course? Apparently. I gather there was a lot of hauling on the reins. Stupid horses, muttered the man with the hose. What kind of useless bit do you use that they can ignore it like that? Uvat looked at Gertazane. They don't know? Gertazane shrugged. I gather they don't pay much attention to their inferiors. Alright, sorry. I see Angsthaze has replied. The girl's in her 20s. Yeah, okay. Before the girl thought the fight had started. Alright. If you stand there threatening someone who isn't playing the game. Yeah, that's true, but how does Gertazane feel about that? Like, is Gertazane putting on a false front of bravado because they, because they know that this will be more intimidating, right? And because they want to indicate that they're not playing the game, right? Do you see now why I was confident Uvat would be there? I see why Gertazane was confident that Uvat would be there. What I'm not sure of is why Gertazane was not afraid they would get injured in the meantime, right? They weren't there yet where Uvat was, and stuff can happen. These people were willing to beat them up and put them in the back of the wagon. So, I mean, anything could have happened, right? Fights happen fast. Unless Uvat can see where those horses are from where this confrontation took place, Gertazane should have been worried about something. Even if they were, maintaining a, front of not being bothered, right? And because it's from Gertazane's point of view, we should know. Yeah, good suggestion, Bob. That would be sufficient. Yep. Rubbing her now throbbing hand, the one that held a knife a second ago. Yeah. It's fine, and that exactly, it just takes that much, right? And Gertazane was impressed at the dwarf's speed. Something like that. There you go. That's it. That's all you need. It doesn't have to be fancy or huge. It just should be noticed. Okay. Yeah, anyway. Stupid horses, muttered the man at the hose. What kind of useless bit do you use that they can ignore it like that? Uvat looked at Gertazane. They don't know? Gertazane shrugged. I gather they don't pay much attention to their inferiors. Well, their loss. Uvat turned to head back to the foundry. Try to have a less eventful night, Gertazane. You too, Uvat. May your watch be dull. He checked the horses over in the torchlight, resettling the collars and checking the angle of the traces. He checked carefully under the noseband of the hackamores to make sure the young fools in the back of the carriage hadn't hurt them too badly. Well done with that, by the way. I know, of course, as the readers do, if they know anything at all about horses, the difference between a hackamore and a bit, you'll notice that I touched on it, and I was like, oh good, it's a hackamore, not a bit. Excellent. Right? So that's great. Mentioning it again here to point out why their attempt to haul it around with a bit, right? The horses around with a bit was, doomed to failure, right? And obviously they don't know a lot about horses either, because they didn't, you can tell, right, if you know it, when it's a bit or... Oh, that's true. Now throbbing hand is a POV violation. Rubbing her hand, then, would be fine. Yeah. Looking betrayed is also good. People of privilege often feel betrayed when things don't go the way they expect. So that's a good call. Okay. Yeah. He checked carefully under the noseband of the hackamores to make sure the young fools in the back of the carriage hadn't hurt them too badly. Contons waffled against her chest, and Pacatus insisted his ears needed scritching, but they were fine. It wasn't the first time Gerda had been glad Rhiannon insisted horses operate on the Leophorium carriage routes she oversaw be worked in elven style with empty mouths. And thank you for touching on it again, because that's good for people who don't know anything about horses. Like Rhiannon, Gerda had always thought that any handler who needed more than nose pressure to guide a horse required more training, not more force. This might have been the first time it had made quite so much difference, however. Yep. Gerda mounted to the driver's seat and clucked at the horses. A soft walk on, and they were on their way back to Capital. And that's a great story. I really enjoyed it, actually. Despite my, what about this, what about that? Obviously, like I said, Angst is a good writer, and this is a story that's engaging and interesting, and I rather enjoyed the outcome, because it's always nice to see assholes get their comeuppance. So, brilliant. Well done. And I'm sure, this being a 31 days, 31 stories, it's obviously a first draft or close to, so that's the kind of thing that, you know, rereading and editing's for, and it's good work. Oh, wrong thing. There we go. No, wrong one again. September? Oh, okay. Well, fair enough. Yep, editing is for September. That's right. No editing now. Absolutely true. Oh, thank you for the save check. Yes, save check, everybody. I'm gonna scroll back through the chat now and see what I have missed. It sounds like it was really lively, so I doubt I'm going to be reading a lot of it. I'll only address the things that are addressed in my direction or that strike my attention, so. Okay. 50,000 words and just on chapter 9, Rowan? Work need be done there. Either we need to split books or you guys are just grabbing way too much. I don't know which, but I'll look at it. I'm an overwriter too, so it's okay. Link says I wrote a 97,000 word book with only 10 chapters. Chapters are meaningless compared to the word count. That's true. 8 chapters with 20k. Mine usually is about 8 chapters with 20k. Rowan says chapters should be roughly 5,000 words. It should be, yeah. You get more than 5,000 words in a chapter, you probably should split that up or find a way to in some way. Although technically there's no limits on chapters. I've actually had a chapter be 1 word. 1. So. Yeah. And hey Daz, good to see you. Glad you finished your work for the day. Excellent. The reason why you should split a chapter after about 5,000 words is because it becomes TMI for the reader at a certain point. There's sort of a story arc within each chapter, little mini ones, and if you got more than a short story in there, people are often like, wait, you know, and it becomes like if you read stuff like A Song of Ice and Fire, right? And you know, it becomes difficult to keep everything in your head as a reader, right? So, and not for everybody, but for a lot of people. So that's why you do it, you know. Is it a hard and fast rule? No, it's not. But I suggested to Rowan and her co-writer Chris, because they are newer writers, that perhaps they should try to keep each chapter under 5,000 words. Right? Learn the rules before you learn how to break them, right? So, if you can't split up that chapter, don't worry about it. And that, by the way, is the end of the sprint for those of you who are sprinting. Yeah, Monad's right. Monad says, I would suggest a chapter be as long as you expect someone to read in one sitting. I think that's the point of them. Yeah, pretty much, right? But if you have a good reason for not doing that, then don't do it. Exactly. Monad has it 100%. Would absolutely agree. Yeah. And yeah, again, there's no hard and fast rule. Nobody says you have to do it any particular way, right? It's just that there's reasons why the things are typically done that way. Yeah, that's also another way to handle it. I'm similar at first. I don't use chapters until I get to my final draft, right? So yeah, if you don't want to split it up to chapters until you get to your final draft, that's perfectly legitimate. I do divide chapters as I go when I'm writing my novels, but I almost always do other things to them later, right? You're never going to end up with the same chapters I started with. I'll either rearrange the order, or I'll, add things together, or I'll split them apart. It never looks like it started with, which is why it's a good thing I write on computers and not typewriters. Just saying. Yeah. Wrote my 4th book in days. Awesome, Link. That's cool. Diary entries, some are traditional chapters. Worked on projects with lots of chapters that aren't normal lengths. Yeah, if you're going to do it like diary entries, then, you're basically limited to the structure of the diary entry, and that's the challenge, like writing a haiku, right? The challenge of a haiku is to make it work within the form, right? So, and recognize that the form is a limitation that you have to respect. So if you're going to do a book as diary entries or a series of letters, there's a term for that, which I don't remember off the top of my head, but, or newspaper articles or whatever, right? Then you're limited to that format, and that's part of the fun. So, yeah. Yep, chapters for showcasing purposes are good, Daz, otherwise nobody knows where to stop. Link says, like the 4th book uses parts, not chapters. Yeah, I do parts and chapters usually, but if I were writing an entire thing in like the letter epistolary, I think something is this term like that, right? If I were doing it in that format, I probably wouldn't use chapters either. There's no need. You've already got natural divisions, right? Oh, hey, Barbarossa. Good to see you. Thanks for favoriting me on Nano. Awesome. How are you? You'll mention that the craftspeople aren't dressed. That'll help. Yeah. Cool, Anastasia. Yeah, usually that bell marks fire. Fire doesn't wait for pants. Yeah, true enough. It's hard to fight naked. I'll point that out. But then again, if the youths are wearing stuff like hose and gowns, probably the guys who are naked have the advantage. Yeah. Siobhan says, I started by numbering scenes. Now that I'm doing some preliminary edits, I am shifting scenes to chapters. Yeah, that makes sense. Sometimes it is multiple scenes and sometimes it's a single scene. Yeah, sensible. I forget about the Myers-Briggs type indicator. It depends. My Hogwarts house is error 403, says Monette. And hello, yo crazy face, welcome. Says you're a first-time viewer. Thanks for stopping in on our writing weirdness. Yeah, do writing streams Wednesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, and Sundays. So, yeah. Yep, Rowan points out. And that's to get back to work, girl. Horses are big on routine, so it would be entirely in character for them to resist a routine change like the one the passengers are trying to inflict. Exactly. Like, nothing wrong with the premise. Perfectly sensible. Yes, of course, they'll resist it. They, especially if they're not used to being slapped with reins and treated so poorly. Like people, right? Horses don't tend to react well to that unless they're used to it. Right? Or unless it's really aggressive, like to stir things up. Aaron points out, sounds like me, that's not a good thing. Dwarves live right times as long. I don't really understand. There must have been a typo there. I'm sorry. Siobhan says, well, they're introverts, so there won't be much of a problem. I don't know what that has to do with. Oh, the I and... yeah, okay. Yeah. The dwarf swung his staff with practiced confidence. Yeah, before the girl thought the fight had started. Okay, that's fair too, but you need to tell us that, right? And it doesn't, so it's confusing. Yeah. Yeah. I got a Sonic commercial and now want a milkshake, says Dragon Magpie. Right Idea says, Sable, I'm so excited for you to rip my work to shreds again because I already got so much better from the last time. And if that is true, then it is totally worth it, and I'm happy to do it because that is what the point is to help, right? If I am not being constructive, let me know. I honestly, you know, that's the goal, right? That's totally the goal, to help you improve your writing. And to help you realize when things aren't coming across maybe the way you intended, which is perfectly normal in any writing, which is one of the main reasons why you have beta readers and get somebody else to edit your work, right? Because it doesn't matter how experienced you are, you've got the whole thing clear in your head, but is it coming across on paper? You can't be sure because you're seeing it, right? So you have to get other people to check and make sure that it is, right? Thank you for the posture check and the hail hydrate. I will certainly hail hydrate. Awesome. Yeah, you could see it throbbing, but I agree, Monad, but probably not from where Gertazane is, who's still on the wagon, from where the girl is, who had to have room to be far enough away from the wagon to fight a dwarf with a staff, right? I doubt they could tell, you know? So, I doubt I could tell, yeah. All right. Awesome, Right Idea. I hope you do have it done. Oxhaze is still a 10 out of 10. Excellent. Oxhaze is actually writing the full story every day. I'm not doing that. I promise. It's way too busy a month for me. I promised that I would start a story for every day. So, and get it far enough that I knew where I was going with it and that I could come back to it later to finish it because the idea was developed, right? Yeah, she was looking betrayed there, Bob. Actually, Angsthaze's right. Her POV is tight. She doesn't need help with that. She's good. Yeah. Hello, Eli. I like that. That'd answer it there, Angsthaze. I'll have her complain. It's not fair. I had a knife. I just wasn't ready yet. Yep. Everyone thinks, oh, I've got a knife. I'm, you know, until they try to fight with a knife, which is hard and dangerous. Do I know this from personal experience? No, but I do have knife fighting training, right? And this is the things that they tell you when they are teaching you how to fight with a knife is, try not to do this. Don't get into this situation. Just about anything else is probably safer. But if all you've got is a knife, this is what you do. Yeah, it's hard. You can't. You could maybe do some damage while training, but you know, if you're fighting or without training, but if you're facing somebody else who knows what they're doing with a weapon, you're probably gonna get your ass kicked. Yeah. Is there a link for the 3131 prompts? I'm sure that Angsthaze has that. Eli says, I did, but I don't know where I put it. Eli says, I'm awake again. Had to skip my own stream in the last stretch of Kahunas because I was getting hypothermia. My body does this when I'm tired. Yeah, it sucks. Epistolary fiction. Thank you. That is the term I was looking for. I'm glad you're feeling better now, Eli. At least I hope you are. Epistolary, yes. Yeah, mine needs to be repaired too, Daz. My body is a temple. Some, like mine, are a bit worn and heading towards dilapidated. Awesome, I do that, epistolary. Yes, James does do that. Yep. A temple to who or what, though? Dionysus, maybe? No, that's Aaron. Nah. It was him in his youth, sort of. Yeah. Siobhan says, so Sable, I want a tattletale on Sparkles. Sparkles is hiding. What'd you do? What'd you do? Okay. Anastasia points out epistolary is etymologically, yes, etymologically related to epistles, such as Paul's epistles to the Corinthians, or to Corinthians, yes. Yeah. Are you procrastinating, Barbarossa? You know what? I got nothing to say, actually, because I was procrastinating yesterday. For some reason, I really did not want to start on the last bit of setting up my manuscript for the typesetter, which I still have to finish today. And it took me a while to get going, but I did get going, and once I got going, I felt better about it. Yep, good point there. Oh, hello, Masadi's again. Yay. Anastasia says also the horses are as aware as Gertazane that this is the last trip before home, food, and rest. Yep. So they really just want to get it done and go the hell home. So they're not really interested in being taken other places. Yep, horses are also creatures of routine, like Rowan pointed out. And, you know, if the routine is screwed up, they don't tend to like it. Yeah, that's the problem, Barbarossa, says Daz. Nothing is happening. Writing shouldn't be stressful. It can be very cathartic. Yeah, but sometimes it can be difficult to start. Give him some space to procrastinate. Just, you know, don't let the procrastination take over, right? Thank you, James. I hope I'm helpful. James says, Sable, you were awesome. You think of stuff the other showcases don't think of. Well, in part it's because I do have some martial arts training, so I know how to write a fight scene. And I know things about the way the physics of fighting works that not everybody knows, and that's cool. You know, I mean, that's something where I can be a bit of a specialist help, right? So, you know, I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination, right? But I know a little bit, right? And that can be, you know, I know that can be helpful, so. Yeah. Red Idea says to Barbarossa, can we please be friends? Because you're very cool and I want to read your work. Yes, he is very cool and he's a damn good writer when he actually sits down to write and doesn't shoot himself in the foot with lack of confidence. Yeah. Anastasia is saying the people standing around in nightgowns are staying away from the person with the knife. Yes. The actual watch person with the staff and training, Vlatska never had a chance. Yeah, and she wouldn't. He had training. She didn't, right? For sure. It's just staffs aren't as fast as knives are, right? If she was like, you know, stay back, right? You know, and kind of waving her knife like it was her, you know, magic trump card in this situation, which people do with guns, apparently. They wave their, you know, like, stay back, you know. You know, it's not going to stand up against a guy who knows what he's doing, for sure. But he still has to be very fast. And, you know, that's all. I'm just saying. I mean, of course he'd win, right? Especially with the staff being a trained watchman, right? He knows perfectly well to keep people with weapons away with the staff, which is part of the point of using a longer weapon, right? So... Eli says, I am indeed feeling better. I'm not cold anymore, but the proper summer temperature of, oh dear God, why do I live in California? Ro and I agree, it's not fair that secondhand stores don't sell replacement body parts. That means it isn't a second-hand store, says Siobhan. Exactly. That's hardly the right term, is it? All right. Gwen says 1:16 here p.m. and 101 degrees Fahrenheit. 3 hours for it to get hotter. 38.3 Celsius, if you're wondering. Yeah, it's on the warm side here in town. The temperature has risen, by the way, 2 degrees since I said something. Celsius. The heat is super distracting. Yeah, I agree, Nisa. I also agree with that. E-Song, and by the way, hi, says one of the cool things is taking your article for showcasing around to different streamers. It feels like they all have different perspectives and things to provide. Absolutely, they do. After a while, you get a sense of people who resonate most with your work, and specifically the gaps within your work. Absolutely legit. Barbarossa asks, mind if I put a link to my newest nano project? I want people to follow it. Totally fine. Happy to follow it. Are we friended yet? By the way, we should be friended. I'll do that. Okay, so it's 20 after 1 and it's about time for me to take my first break, guys. So I'm going to do that. Oh, good time zone, Nat. Good to see you. I was just about to take a break, but I will be right back. Do you guys like the idea of the Black Widow shape changer story? Who killed her rival in a beauty contest, right? As a Weird West story. And if so, what do you see this thing about the horses taking a carriage down the wrong path about, despite the direction of the driver? Right? It doesn't actually have to be lightning undercover. That was just my original thought. It doesn't have to be a gunslinger horse. There are regular horses in the world, and it could be one of them, right? Yeah. Chapter 3 and Chapter 6. Chapter 3 to finish is right idea. And Chapter 6, I think it is, then Act 1 is fully written. Nice. Okay, yeah. I do know there does appear to be some competition. That much I'm aware of. Angstaze says, Sable's reviews are competitive though because of their high value. If I am being of high value to people, awesome. Natalia says, running in panic, less panic than this morning. Still in panic. I'm sorry you're in panic. Eli says, I missed the beginning of the stream. Are we doing showcases or critiques today? Yes, showcases and critiques are on. However, when I get back from my break, I'm actually going to do some writing of some kind because I haven't yet. So, but by all means, go ahead. I do believe, yeah, there should be more in the queue available. So you bet. And I will be right back, gang. I'll see you in a couple minutes. Okay, I'm back. I still got the camera off for a minute because I'm eating, but I'd just like to say here, yeah, okay. Regarding the waiting because other people's writing might be more important, quote unquote, because maybe they're doing something important with it, quote unquote. Don't do that. Your writing's just as important as everybody else's. Just because you're not doing anything with it for profit right now doesn't mean you won't later. And regardless, your writing still has value, whether it's intended for profit or not. Your writing, e-song is intended for making your players happy and entertaining you and your friends. That is a valuable thing to be doing. And your writing is totally, that's just as important as trying to publish a story, okay? Right? Please don't self-reject, okay? Don't do that. It's really okay. I want to see your work. Okay, alright, and I'm back. Yeah, cool. I'm glad to see other people are also encouraging e-song and others not to self-reject. Yeah. No, I want to see your work. Your work is important, and I don't really, it doesn't matter why you're creating it, right? It's even if you're just writing for yourself, that's totally fine. Writing is worth doing for its own sake. So, do I do 3131 on Mondays? Anastasia asked. No, well, I do it, but I don't stream it because Monday's my day off. So, yeah. The only reason why you guys don't really see any of my stuff here is because my co-worker is exhibition of writing shy, says Rowan. Yep. Anastasia points out, I'm trying to squeeze around other people to form unbroken lines for streaming rather than stick with my normal time. Yeah, I'm not on Wednesday. Or on Monday, rather. It's, you know, all yours. So. Cool, I see a collab here is developing between eSong and The Right Idea. That's great. Yeah, Chris shouldn't be as, I'll talk him into it once I get a chance to do some reading of your work. Yeah. Give me a Western sounding first name, guys. Brainstorms are for great times. Yeah, sort of. Anastasia says, I suspect you know from Game of Thrones that who signs up to a stream in a time slot and who streams in the time slot is not exactly the same. Yeah. Clive, Zachariah, Norman, John, Cassidy, Dirk. Awesome, guys. Okay. I think I'll go with Clive, because it was the first thing. Thank you. Those are some great names. I might like clip that whole section of names here, guys, just because I'll need them later. Those are all good names. It's pretty great. Time signature, Matt. How long have I been streaming here? 1:37. Okay. Roughly 1:37. I'll remember that. Well, okay. Maybe I won't, so I should write it down, because... As I'm sure Daz can relate to, I'm at that age where my memory is not as good as I think it is. There we go. Okay. Arthur, yeah, that was another one. That's awesome. Thanks, guys. AC, yay, for Eli. It is nice when inspiration just solves the problem for you, isn't it, Red Idea? I was sure I remembered my memory being better. Yeah, pretty much. Well, that's the sprint for those of you sprinting. I'm just going to finish this sentence so I remember the idea I was chasing here. There we go. Another chapter of 3,290 words. Good job, Natalia. Eli says, I don't remember my memory being better. I remember my memory being shit since the day I was born. BC Brown says, I'm at the day job today, but I managed to stealth write 301 words during that sprint. Excellent! Excellent! Stealth writing is awesome. I have always done it. I used to do it at school. Alright, so we have another showcase, and we have a couple of brainstorms. So first of all, I saw the brainstorm for Daz. Daz wants help writing up their character. Her character is a rogue, I would imagine, by class, first level rogue. This is kind of the wrong stream to do it in, though, right? I'm not really as up on the stats as Aaron is. He is probably the better choice for, like, you know, making it easy. What I remember is, uh-oh, I can't remember this. Says Eli. That works for you? Okay. Yeah, okay, so I think probably you're looking at a first level rogue. That would seem logical with your background. So D6 hit points. In our game, we always give maximum hit points for first level just because we would prefer our characters not to be as squishy. So, feel free to do that based on your, constitution and, dice score, right? Do you want us to roll stats, or would you rather wait entirely and pester Aaron at that time? I'll tell him, I'll give him a heads up that you've bought the brainstorm. You do that too, BC Brown? Yeah, I just think that makes sense, right? It's no fun to have a character with 1 hit point. You can't do anything. It's a waste. You'll pester Aaron? Okay. Cool, I'll let him know that you've done that and that you're looking for his help to write it up and what I know about the character already. And you'll probably... He never looks at the damn Discord, so you'll probably have to post the link to your background again. But go ahead and do it. He can read it over and that'll give him an idea. Dragon Magpie says, Sable, I want to write a proper backstory for my chat crew character. What articles would you suggest I read for this? Okay. If you are in the chat crew and you are part of the Avalonian Imperial Navy, then you are almost always certainly an elf, a gnome, or some variation of the two, right? So that's kind of the racial background you're looking at. I don't have anything written up for the gnomes yet, but the gnomes are basically, they're the steampunk tinkerer types. They're not tinker gnomes out of Dragonlance, their shit works. Although they do tend to give it, like, long, redundant names. Because it's just the way they work. Their language is complicated. All the Toy Soldier World stuff. She doesn't have time for all that. Okay, are you, thinking an elf character, or a gnome character, or which? He never looks at the damn Discord. Tell us how you really feel, Sable. The hubby frustrates me that way because he expects me to keep him apprised of stuff. Yes. Alright. Author Goddess says, pursued and paid off 5 bills. Excellent. Set husband to find info on 2 more. Rescheduled dental appointment. Ordered supper. Stared at bank balance for several minutes. Productivity check-in. Good work. Half gnome, half elf? Yeah, that's another option. There's a name for that. Yeah, so elven articles if you're going to be an elf. Gnome, you think. Okay. In that case, let's see. What would be the best information? Okay, probably then the place I have best fleshed out for gnomes is Whirlybird Harbor. So... although you could also be from something, there's another place called Whirligig, and there's a place called Sprocket. Yeah, Author Goddess says, I is a grown-up, just don't tell any of the adults in my IRL life, it might make their heads explode. Yeah, no doubt. Rowan agrees, he doesn't, and it annoys me when I DM Aaron. I've got to ask Sable on stream to tell him to look at his DMs when she wanders through the living room next. Yep. Needs to be somewhere I can be shanghaied. We shanghaied a bunch of people from Alasia on Draconia. I detect a theme, says Gwen. Yeah, they name stuff like that. So I was going to suggest Peridot, but probably you don't want to be from here because we didn't Shanghai anybody from here, so it wouldn't be consistent. Let's see. What can I give you that's best about the gnomes? Okay. Yeah, not all of them were given names, that's true. If you're a gnome, let me think about this. Okay, the stuff about gnomes tends to be written in the cracks in my world. So here, let me see. You're gonna want probably this section. And that section. Okay, so where was Sprocket again, Siobhan? Where did we put that? I'm sure that's great. A dive bar called Gnome Ann's Land. That just became a thing because that's just too funny and would appeal to their sense of humor. I'm stealing it whole hawk. Thank you. That's great. There's a gnome neighborhood in the port city. Yeah, probably. That's likely. Okay. To get a feel for my gnomes. You're a baker's daughter, apparently? Okay, that's awesome. Okay. My gnomes come up with the technology. This is probably the one that is most clearly describes the way they think. But you might also want to look at, there's some tidbits on the first star ship classification system. Baker's daughter's cool. Everybody needs to eat. And starfaring engines will give you some stuff. I mean, just look for the stuff that says gnome, right, is all I'm saying. And I know it's like a lot of articles, but like I said, it's kind of sneaking in the cracks here. They're the technology people. So, dang gnomes in the kitchen. Yeah, there you go. Those are some places you can find out some stuff about gnomes. Or should I say galley? Yeah. Siobhan, where was Sprocket? And I'm totally going with that. Gnome Ann's Land. That's awesome. Gnome Ball! Oh, right, Gnome Ball! Yes! Thank you for reminding me about Gnome Ball. Okay. That would be under... Actually, I've got that article, but don't I? Where is that? Yeah, Avalonian Calendar. I've got some holidays. You'll want this article. And you'll want to read, in particular, about the invention of Gnome Ball. Yeah. So with the baker, can I have alchemy background? Sure. It's quite common for gnomes to practice alchemy. I think Sprocket was where Selnar is. Oh, on Carthen. I wondered if... Okay, yeah. So Sprocket is like a major gnome city on Carthen, right? You just love Gnome Ball so damn much. I think it's great that you love it. Gnome or secrets. Gnome or secrets. I gotta get a pen now. You guys are great. This is cool. This totally would appeal to their sense of humor. It's brilliant. Okay. Gnome Ann's Land. Gnome or secrets. And that probably is a mining company that mines either mithril or star metal. That's great. Awesome, AG. That's cool. Do they look like D&D gnomes? Yeah, basically. Yeah. It's a little bit more like World of Warcraft gnomes, I'd say. But, yeah, somewhere in there. Yeah. There are forest gnome types as well. They don't tend to get as involved in starfaring, but they exist. So that could be a thing. You know. But yeah, the places that tend to get involved in starfaring tend to be very steampunk technological. They know how to do gunpowder, right? This is a new technology elsewhere in the universe, and that's by my book series, not by the story. There's a couple of people who use gunpowder, but it's kind of an unknown factor, something that hasn't quite achieved popular acceptance yet in the time period of the game. And have I seen Sparkle's character yet? No, I have not. I'm trying. I got so much to do. Okay. So here we go. We got gnome stuff. We got Daz's stuff planned. Have I got everybody's brainstorms covered? I'm trying to think of a good bakery name with gnome in it. There's no place like gnome? No place like gnome? I don't know. How about gnomes come from anywhere they want but ended up at that port for trade reasons and then got shanghaied? That could be it too, right? Yeah, maybe they were in Alasia to trade and got kinda press ganged. That could be a thing. Or maybe they actually joined the Navy, you know? Or the Marines, for whatever reason. Maybe they just wanted to see the universe and gnome noms. That's a good one. Gnome noms, I like that too. You guys are great. Okay. Because this was peacetime until things happened. Yep. It was indeed. Nom nom nom. That's funny. Okay. I gotta do a separate article about gnome balls sometime, but okay. Alright, I'm getting back in work. Which I was here. Okay. I'm gonna use the rest of the sprint. Rum gnome balls munching and crunching. Enter the gnome dome! Enter the gnome dome, that's great. Yes, yes. Well, I'd say it was a mutual invention, but it did totally spark out of Siobhan's character, Belvarn. Absolutely did. The characters kind of made it up in-game in the process. It was very much Calvin Ball until they settled on the rules, and it was really kind of fun. Gwen says, I joined the Navy to see the universe, but what did I see? I saw the, wanders off, whistling nonchalantly, hands in pockets. Dragon Magpie says, I go to Alasia with my merchant aunt to get away from a bad breakup, and almost immediately get press ganged when some Marines find out I can cook. No, that doesn't work, and the reason why it doesn't work is because we already have too many cooks on the ship, to be honest with you. Right? There are, 3 different people in the galley already who are, like, major cooks. But if you knew how to sail, you could be press ganged. Even if it was water sailing. But that could work. Or if you want to remain the baker's daughter, maybe you wanted to get away from home, to get away from the bad breakup, so you joined the Navy and signed up, or joined the Marines and signed up to get away from the bad breakup. It certainly wouldn't be the first time somebody in history's done that. The French Foreign Legion exists for a reason. Truth is, Daz, nobody gets press ganged unless they already have nautical-based skills. They'll press gang fishermen, they're not going to press gang tailors. So, but, like I said, you could decide to join the Marines to get away from a bad breakup. That would certainly be well within character. And yeah, more alchemists are always welcome, for sure. And the fact that you can double as a cook is also helpful. Yeah, you can have all these skills. It's totally fine. Standing at the edge of the boardwalk, leaning over the rail, squinting into the weather. Runoff was already dripping down her hat brim. Alchemy could not get you press ganged on the ship, guys. Like I said, nautical skills only. If you can't pull a rope, you're a waste of space. Sorry. So if you don't know how to pull a rope, they will teach you how to pull a rope. Yeah, me too on a ship. I don't know how to pull a rope. I know logically how it's done. Yeah, it's kind of got to work with the... Yeah, nothing to see here. Move along to the next eager volunteer. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, we can't have too many people who stowed away. For one thing, they check for stowaways. For the second thing, what are the odds here? You know? Remember, this isn't just a game, right? I may end up putting this in stories. It's gotta make sense, right? So we can't have a whole secret hold of people who stowed away on the ship, right? I know how to pull a rope, says Eli. You see a rope and you pull it. Now pulling the right one. Yeah. That's the sprint, by the way. Mysterious closet of hiding people, says Esong. Keeps refilling. Hey, we're really good at hiding our minion crew party. Yes, there are traditionally recruiting bonuses for signing up. Maybe she needed the money. That could be a thing. Yep, recruiting bonuses might get your family out of a tight spot, points out Jose, and you can hope to sneak away at the next port. Exactly. Totally, Dragon Magpie. When all the books come out, we can write fan fiction where all of us are shanghaied or stowaways. Yes, you can. Actually, I have a fan fiction policy, which I've already come up with because a couple people have asked me about fan fiction. Here's how it works, okay? Yes, please send me your fan fiction. I love fan fiction. I'm flattered if someone wants to write about this universe that we've created. Awesome. Totally awesome. Right? If I think that it should be in canon, I will pay you professional rate for it. And I will publish it on my website. If I don't think it should be canon, right? Or if, whatever, then I will talk to you about it. If you want, I will still publish it on the website in a different section, but I won't pay you, right? And I reserve the right to borrow material from this fiction that I have seen and incorporate it into the Toy Soldier Saga, if I think it's cool. If I didn't pay you for it, though, I will talk to you about the story and tell you about what elements I like, and we'll work something out. Either way, if I use your idea, yeah. Sure, I want to see your newest mini there, Barbarossa. Yep, Rowan says maybe the ex left her destitute and was a complete bounder, was just using her for money. Yep. If you want misery, says Anastasia, this posting was to get you far away from the territory where you have contacts and hope for escape. Oh, and Dragon Magpie says, I got it. My family takes me to meet my arranged fiancé, and I join up instead. There you go. Lots of people do that. Get away from that. That works very well. Okay, I'll look at the mini. Yeah, I was thinking paying parental debts, points out Angstase, also good. That's cool. All the bottles, wow. And the tears? Holy cow. What's this person's story, Barbarossa? I want to know. To me, this looks kind of like a space marine who's, like, having a crisis. That's to get back to work, Rala. This song says, given my character actively wants to be on the ship, they love their family, but they're looking for either patriotic service or a way to provide a better future and stability for their family. That makes perfect sense. Or continuing a family tradition of loyal service. Yeah, I tried sneaking off, says Daz, it would be easy to sneak off. Why not? But Daz tried. Siobhan's character is a psionic. Yep. Yeah, Nat says, I also accept fan fiction. Maybe people want to write about a werewolf school that mirrors Red Tempest Academy. Yeah, exactly. No idea. I found a pose and thought, sci-fi robbery gone wrong. And look around, she's got a wound. Cool. Oh, yeah, that's a good wound, too. I love her expression. Okay, what this reminds me of, right? Okay, I'm currently, when I'm under stress, I read comfort books, which is I read books that I've read before that I really enjoyed, and I read them again. So right now I'm rereading the Vorkosigan saga, right? And in this, there's this mercenary company, right? This strikes me as someone who's like just finished the mercenary mission they were on where things went really bad and there was a lot of death. And now they're broke and they're holed up in a store and they're drunk as hell and the store won't accept their credit card and they need some shit and they just have a breakdown. That's kind of what I'm reminding out there. I may not hop back on the computer, says Right Idea. Cool. Also, Sable, I have reread some books so often. BC Brown says, I read comfort books when I'm stressed as well. Yeah, absolutely. Red Idea says, I read The Perks of Being a Wallflower about 50 times. It was the first book that profoundly affected me. Yeah, for sure. All right, good night, Natalia. Sleep well. Thanks for joining me today. I'll see you tomorrow. This is great, Barbarossa. I want to know color. Haha, it'll tell me, won't it? I want to know what you used for your mix there, for the bottles. That's very good blood, by the way. Looks great. Just that green, eh? Mad Science green. Okay, I'll keep that in mind. Or did you tune it? No, you didn't. Cool. Because those look to me like the appropriate bottles, for sure. Yeah, Corporal Beer. Yeah, exactly. What gold are you using for this? There's a gold in there, isn't there? Oh no, that's just more of the glass. Oh, that's really well done. No, it's really cool, Barbarossa. I like that a lot. Okay, I'm gonna finish this sprint, I think, and then we're gonna do Eli's showcase. Yes, you did. Did I see your project ad for the Nano project? I didn't. I either missed the link or... Yeah. Reminds me of Ard when Miles found him. Ard Mayhew. Yes. Yes, totally. Totally, Rowan. When Miles, the protagonist of the Vorkosigan Saga, met this Ard Mayhew character, he's a jump pilot. He has obsolete neural implants. The last ship in the sector that was able to use those implants was going to be decommissioned. So he holed up on the ship, getting hammered and threatening to blow it up if anyone tried to take it off. That's pretty much it. BC Brown says, I either reread comfort books or read new cozy mysteries. Yeah. Okay, Barbarossa posted it again. Are you a fan of Victorian Era? Do you like magic? I am currently in the process of writing a series called the Rifle Mage series, set in a pseudo-Victorian era. The Rifle Mage series takes place during a devastating war between two empires. Magic will fly, guns will fire, war will wage. Check it out on my Nano page. That's pretty cool. Okay, so if you would like some minor edits, I mean, it sounds great. Yeah, let me see. How can I help you? Are you a fan of the Victorian Era? First of all, you need a the, right? Secondly, Victorian Era could be, because I'll check that out and I'll be like, are we talking about romances or are we talking about war? Because I am really not into Victorian romances. So I might put, are you a fan of the Napoleonic Wars? I might put, are you a fan of Sharp's rifles? Of Sharp's War and Master and Commander, something like that. Okay. And currently needs an LY. Otherwise, this is awesome. And I will check out your pictures. That's just suggestions for ways to tighten it up if you want. Not, don't take it as a personal critique of your writing, because it's not. Are you a fan of Victorian warfare? Yes, there we go. That'll do it. Yes, I will definitely accept your buddy request. Of course I will. Cool. And I'm glad you've committed to writing this. Good. I will encourage you. I want to see this story. I'm into this universe, and you've got some stuff that sounds great. Uniforms. I'll show you. Uniforms do vary by rank. But there's the private's uniform, yep. I honestly love the name, the Autumn of Empire. Yes, totally. Because it sounds eerie. Yes, exactly. That's a great name. Ah, I hear you. PC Brown says, oh, just want to be writing today. Work expects worky things. I know, right? How dare they? Okay, I'm getting back to work, and then we're going to do Eli Showcase. Wrong one. Okay. I'm obviously not going to finish this today, so I'm going to I wonder if maybe I should have Piper be the protagonist of this one. Maybe Piper decides to participate in the... or I guess they could both be. Piper could decide to participate in the pageant. Yes, Star Wars game tonight. I'm definitely into it. I like your ideas there. Right Idea says, I have my series, The Well of Souls. Book 1 was going to be Balance and Consequence, but now the prequel novella is going to be book 1, I think, so it's called Antithesis of Fate. Yes, go get some foods, Eli. Yeah, that's what I think too. Maybe since they have to be in town anyway, Piper decides to sign up for the beauty pageant. Somebody gets killed, you know, in the back room or something. And Piper and Graham work together to solve the crime. That could be excellent. I like stories where I go back and forth between their perspectives. They're both major protagonists, so I like it. Okay. Or both are. Maybe Piper enters the contest. See, that would actually go well with my first lines here, right? This beginning part. Graham couldn't help but smile when Clive blushed the tips of his toes and murmured something along the lines of, "My pleasure, ma'am," before retreating to the safety of his store. Graham's mother had that effect on people, as did his sister, a fact he was a little less phlegmatic about. Piper's really pretty, right? I like the locked door murder too. I want to write a locked door murder. This sounds like, yeah, I like writing mysteries, so this, yeah, Well, okay. Actually, I've read a lot of mysteries and have not written a lot of them, so I'm very excited about the possibility of trying to do it right. So, yes, I think that's what we're going to do. And I needed that story, right? So this is very, very cool. Thank you for the idea. Awesome. I can't wait to write this. It's great. Can I drop the link to the uniforms article? Did I not? I thought I did. But I will do it again. No problem. So has some fruits, says Rowan to Eli. Exactly. I love writing mysteries, says BC Brown. My Metaphysical Chronicles series is Paranormal Mysteries. Awesome. Awesome. Well, you know, spot us a link, because are they published? Because I'd sure love to read them. That's really cool. Mysteries and police procedurals are kind of my guilty pleasure. I've got a story coming out in Cost Mass Infinities on the 1st of September, right? Which is, it's issue 6 if you're looking for it online. And that's Cost Mass Infinities like this. And the story, right, Cost Mass Infinities. And the story is called The Mysterious Death of Mr. Park, right? And that award there, I won it for that story. So I'm really excited to have finally sold it to a professional magazine, and I've got a whole thing planned with the protagonists of that, who are a couple of Canadian cops in a solar punk near future setting. So thank you. Thank you. I got 2 major stories published this year now that I can probably see if I can harass people for an Aurora award for. Thanks, Red Idea, but are you sure I'm talented? Have you read my stuff? I might not be. I might just be lucky. Right? The difference between a published and an unpublished writer is luck and stubbornness. That's it. That's it. Which is why everybody's writing is equally important. Okay, so that's as far as I'm going to get today, but at least I've got to start. I know where I'm going. Goal accomplished. And it's a Weird West story, so I'm very excited about writing it. I love writing my Weird West setting. It's just so much fun, and I haven't done it in a while. And, you know, Jamie's been after me to get back at it. So, to answer Barbarossa's question a while ago about when the next Weird West story is coming out, if you are talking about my Patreon, I posted one a day or 2 ago. If you are, or a chapter of one anyway, if you're talking about actually publishing one, this will probably be the next one. So, and that is the sprint for those of you who are sprinting. Lunch, food, and rum. I'm coming over, Masadi's. I'm just saying. It's happening. Okay. So you know what? I know it's the break, but let's start in on Eli's showcase anyway. And then that way, after that is done, with about half an hour left to the stream, I can get to setting up the manuscript that I wanted to do for the Toy Soldier Saga. Oh, I'm in the wrong one. No, I'm not. Okay. You're more than welcome. Sandwiches and daiquiris, I'm in. All right. Woot. Okay. So, Eli's showcase. White, because dark would be icky in a strawberry daiquiri. Yeah, I don't think that'd go well. I like dark rum too, but nah. Okay. Not in Love is the story title. This is another 31 Days, 31 Stories story. There, Eli. Great with blackcurrant. Ooh. I've never tried that, but now I have to. Good idea, Gwen. Author Goddess says, well, damn, the kids got iPads for school, but no chargers, and they can't charge them at school. Well, what the fuck is that? Incompetence. Are you kidding me? Captain Morgan is Spiced Gold is an okay cheapish run. Yeah, it's decent. I like it. I like Captain Morgan. Kraken is excellent, but only if you freeze it. You have to freeze it, in my opinion, because otherwise the alcohol is strong enough that it tastes like paint thinner. But if you put it in the freezer, it's very smooth, really nice. F apple up the ass. Totally, Author Goddess. That is the most ridiculous fucking thing I have ever heard in my life. What the actual fuck? Spiced is great and hot buttered rum. Nisa, one of my wintertime favorites. Absolutely love hot buttered rum. Good stuff. Yes. Very nautical, that. Okay, we're gonna do the story now. Zefiev, the commander, is asking for you, Yushina told the gods of winds. He smiled up at her from his seat on his cot, then stood. Very well, darling. Shall we go? She shook her head. I'm for the walls. She wants me to start heating oil for the Lyran. Or is that Elrian? I think it was Elrian, right? You're back. You're back just in time for me to start your showcase. I guess I'll start over because I forgot you weren't here. I'm sorry. You said you were getting food too and I wasn't paying attention. Okay. Not in Love by Eli Quick. Is this a 31 Days, 31 Stories story, Eli? Eli's a good writer too. I like their stories as well. Elrian. Okay. Zefiev, the commander, is asking for you, Yushina told the god of winds. He smiled up at her from his seat on his cot, then stood. Sort of, no prompt. Okay, still counts. Yeah, very well, darling. Shall we go? She shook her head. I'm for the walls. She wants me to start heating oil for the Elrian. His smile froze and then faded. Then we're apart today. His voice was so quiet she had to lean forward to hear him over the whistling wind outside. She shrugged. It had to happen sometime, didn't it? This is an army, Zefiev. Neither of us are more than recruits. We go where they tell us. She sighed and scratched her cheek. I think the siege is going badly. Oh, is he a god of winds, but he's pretending to be a recruit? That's hilarious. He scowled, looking towards her cot. He'd been doing that a lot, she realized, ever since she had recovered from falling a couple months back. Every time she had to go and do something away from him, he scowled at her cot. What in the name of Mother Sky was going through the mad god's head when he did that? He sighed at last. You're right. Very well. Best give me my toll for the day, Windling. She rolled her eyes. I suppose. Go to the commander, mad god. Luck today, Yushina. Let's get back to her brow. As he leaned forward to kiss her gently, he pulled away and tucked an errant strand of hair back into a bun, looking unhappy. No dying, Windling. I expressly forbid it. She scoffed and left the tent. But if she was being honest with herself, she admitted as she climbed to the stairs, you need a plural there, to the rampart, she wasn't happy about it either. Yeah, okay. She felt as if she left some part of herself in the courtyard below, something she hadn't even known mattered, intangible as mist. She didn't know why. Didn't know why. Gotta remove the was typo there. Oh, I hear a dingy thing. Hello, Chancy Twitch. Thank you for the follow. If you are indeed a real being with a name like that, one wonders if that's this, the follow bot's been going around lately, and I don't mean to insult you if you're not. If you're not, then hello, welcome to the channel. Writing streams and stuff about RPGs, that's what we do here. So, just a sec here, guys. Hard to take a deep breath. I've got something wrong with a rib back here. It's out, or I pulled a muscle or something, so. Anyway. Yeah. She didn't know why. She didn't even like him. She hated him kissing her, hated his pet names, hated him touching her all the time. Interesting. She paused at the top of the stair and leaned against the parapet. She looked up and sighed. Mother Sky, as she growled and stomped over to the barrel of oil to heat. I'm an idiot. A million times that day she reminded herself that she hated him, that she wanted to hate him, that he was a coward. It was his fault the Zaphian were at war. She was just tired, she told herself. The commander and the elders had made her share a tent with him for months. He was always chattering at her when she tried to sleep. But some part of her kept answering that he was kind to her. To everyone, really. And she could tell he felt terrible about Elrius. He wouldn't talk about it, but she knew it hurt him. He flinched every time someone mentioned one of his siblings, the other gods. What must it be like to have a family that large? And none of them liked him. That's not quite the right tense. What must it be like to have a family that large when none of them liked him? When is what you're looking for there. She kept glancing over to the command tent during lulls in the battle. No comma there. She looked around every time he cast his voice into her ears, disappointed each time that he wasn't near her. She was grateful when the Elrian retreated for the night. She slumped as she made her way back into the courtyard, too tired and distracted to think anymore. Someone handed her a bowl of something gooey and burnt smelling. She ate it without tasting it, sitting on a stone bench. When she scraped the bottom of the bowl, she realized she had an arm around her shoulder, and she could hear a voice in her ear. Zafiev's voice. She looked up to find him frowning at her in concern. You're almost done. Just a few more bites, he was saying. You've been on the wall all day. You need to eat. Mother Sky, didn't anyone bring you water today? She shook her head slowly, trying to ignore the spinning of the world around her. I don't think so. I'm all right, Zafiev, really. Don't you lie to me, he scolded. Eat those last bites. She looked down at the bowl of stew. She sighed. I'm not hungry, mad god. Leave me alone. He pressed a skin into her hand. Drink some of that, then. She drank a gulp and almost spat it back out. Ugh, is this pickle juice? Yes, don't make that face at me. Drink it. She shoved it back at him. No, you like it so much, you drink it. He made a face but took a long swig of the juice. Okay. Good night, right idea, or, good rest to you. Need to go and have a break from thinking, writing, burning your brain. I hear ya. Relaxing, Misa. Good job. Good night, right idea. Sleep well. Okay, so pickle juice. Is this raw pickle juice? Because this is probably not a good idea if she's dehydrated. She'll want to put some of it in actual water because it's got a lot of salt in it, and that can dehydrate worse, which can cause kidney damage, right? So, but using it as an electrolyte restorant, totally correct. Absolutely, that's what people used to do. And apple cider vinegar, right? So, if you're thinking like an electrolyte, yeah. But there should be... Unless he's an idiot and doesn't understand how human physiology works, which could be a thing. He made a face but took a long swig of the juice. Before she realized what he was doing, he pressed his mouth against hers. She blinked as he thrust his tongue against her lips. That was new. She found herself opening her mouth on reflex. Salty brine gushed from his mouth into hers, and she swallowed it, sputtering and pulling away. Okay, we'll amend to watered down pickle juice. Yeah, perfect. Yeah. I would break up this paragraph. This is obviously sort of a despite myself romance, which is kind of cool. And divide it here, right? She blinked as he thrust his tongue against her lips. New paragraph. That was new, right? Because then you're kind of emphasizing it, and those are two separate ideas in a way, right? So his action, her reaction, very important when you're writing romance. right? And vice versa. The action and reaction of the characters to each other in terms of gestures should be emphasized and set as separate ideas for the perspective, because that's where a lot of the action is, right? So, yeah. Masadi's is going to go lurk and snuggle and write somewhere cozy. See you later, Misa. Happy writing. Fantasine says, I'm going to be lurking. Roommate has good internet, so can't watch the video. Keeps buffering, but I can see chat. Totally fair. Totally fair. Yeah, or a Menta sour wine, which is wine vinegar, which is also electrolytes. Yep. Good point, Rowan. Yeah, you can ask her any of those kind of questions. Rowan knows a lot about that kind of shit. Old-fashioned stuff like that. Especially when it comes to food or fabrics. She usually has a good answer, and you can talk to her. Dragon Magpie says, ooh, a one-off story where a marine ship disappears and it turns out they time traveled and ended up in prehistoric times and were stranded. That could be done. That could totally be done. In that case, you'll want to read my article on Avalon, because that'll tell you some of the stuff that's been lost to history. Yeah, okay. What in the name of Mother Sky? She demanded, wiping at her mouth. Drink it, or I'll do it again, he ordered, pressing the skin back into her hands. She shot him a startled look and took another swig. She gagged, but she made herself empty it. When it was gone, she looked up and realized she felt better. Less dizzy, more hungry. She finished her stew, and it was only after she had eaten the rest that she saw he wasn't at her side anymore, and she felt bereft. She turned the bowl back in at the mess tent and walked wearily back to their tent. Delete back here after bowl, you don't need it. She turned the bowl in at the mess tent and walked wearily back to their tent. That way it's not redundant. She found him inside. Actually, it's not redundant, it's repetitive, this word I was looking for, but you don't need back in this, so yeah, just delete it. She found him inside, laying on his cot, his back turned to her. She tied the flap, you've got two flap, right, of the tent closed and started to walk towards her own cot to sleep. I would just say started towards. We don't need walked. How big is this tent? Right? Because walking implies that it's going to take a while, right? Started towards her own cot to sleep. I would make this a different sentence too. She tied the flap of the tent closed and started towards her own cot to sleep. But then she stopped. She looked back at him. That's how I would put it. Its own sentence. But then she stopped and looked back at him, or then she stopped. She looked back at him. He had taken care of her. She had really been sick, or she'd been really sick, and he had made sure she would be okay. She closed her eyes and let herself admit he wasn't the villain in her story. Maybe he was a friend. Maybe he was even more than a friend, but she just wasn't ready for that yet. I would make that sentence on its own a separate paragraph too, right? Break it up here. Maybe he was a friend. New paragraph. Maybe he was even more than a friend, but she wasn't ready for that yet. Because that emphasizes the big emotional shifts, which is where the action is in a romance, right? So that's important, and it's good to emphasize. Yeah. Zefiev? She asked, unable to turn to him, unable to not say anything. Wait a minute. She was looking at him. She stopped to look at him. She hasn't looked away yet. She's still looking at him. Right? So I get what you're trying to say here, though. Let me see. How about unable to go to him? Unable to not say anything. There you go. She hesitated. If he was tired, or yes, darling, he asked, sounding every bit as tired as she felt. She hesitated. If he was tired, no. She needed to say it. Thank you for taking care of me. I was not appreciative. I didn't deserve your care. Thank you. Okay. Oh, I see. And then the action depends on him coming up behind her. Okay. In that case, scratch that, what I just said, and come back here because it's easier to change this. She tied the flap of the tent closed and started back towards her own cot to sleep, or started towards her own cot to sleep. Then she stopped. And then she just doesn't. Oh, okay. Okay. She did turn back around. I forgot to write it. Okay. Okay, let me see. How can I help with that? She looked away again. Zefiev, she asked, unable to look at him, unable to not say anything. There you go. That solves your problem right there. Okay. Back to here. She heard his cot creak, felt him come up behind her. He put his arms around her waist, and she closed her eyes. Yeah, she was only tired, she told herself. That was why she leaned against him. It wasn't because she liked him. New paragraph. He pressed a kiss to the nape of her neck, pulling her hair out of its bun. I would say easing her hair out from its bun, or out of its bun, because pulling suggests, right? So easing her hair out of its bun and smoothing it away from her face. Because that's got a gentle sound to it, right? What would it be like to kiss him back, she wondered. No. No. Bad. That's great. You're welcome, Windling, he whispered. Sleep. Tomorrow is another long day. He was right. She sighed and forced herself to stand straight again. Good night, Zefiev. He nuzzled her hair. Good night, Ushina. He released her, and she heard him get back into his cot. New paragraph. She found herself turning to look after him, caught herself, and crawled into her own cot. She stared into, is what you want there, into the dark at the wall of the tent, then closed her eyes. Ushina? Zefiev asked. Good timing. She sighed. What? Nice. I missed you today. That's nice for you, she told him in a reasonable facsimile of her usual grumpiness. Go to sleep. She could not bring herself to say, I missed you too. It would cost her too much. And how much will keeping your silence cost you? A voice in her mind asked. She sat up at the thought, maybe? No. She sat on the thought? I'm not sure what you mean there. Putting her head under her pillow and telling herself to go to sleep. Tomorrow would be another long day, and she couldn't afford to be in love with him. She could fall in the war. She couldn't promise him a child with the war going on. She felt a sob rise in her chest and squashed that too. She was only tired, she told herself. She was only tired. Not in love. She drifted off into a restless sleep. Well done. And Akimoto's, thank you very much for the subscription. 13 months! Awesome! Yay! Baker's dozen of months! Thank you so much. I really appreciate your support. You're amazing. Akimoto's is one of my best supporters as far as, he's a patron. He supported the Kickstarter. He subscribes to the channel. I see you and I appreciate it. So it's awesome. Yay, not too much that needs edits. No, it doesn't need a lot of edits, Eli. It's a good story. Sorry that I'm not as active as I'd like to be. Well, you said you were busy and you were working and stuff. It's cool. It's all right. How are you doing? Yeah, I like this too, Eli. This is, Do you do a lot of romances? Out of curiosity? Now, I would like to say something about romances. Some people are really quick to disparage romances, okay? I used to? Awesome. Awesome. You can tell you're a pro. Okay, the thing about romances is they're about how people feel. And they're important. If you don't include those... the story can be about that, And I think a story is something that's happening to someone you care about. So romances are good stories. At least the reason why romances tend to get a lot of, I don't know, dissing. I don't know, I can't think of a better word, right? Is because, first of all, they tend to be feminine, and we tend to be sexist about things like that in our culture. Oh, it's something girls like, so blah, right? And, but the second thing is that they often fall into tropes. Yeah, and sometimes they're not realistic. But then again, Jagtress, and by the way, hi, good to see you. See, I disagree that that's necessarily an argument point. Are there dragons? No. We read Lord of the Rings anyway, right? Does James Bond actually, does any human being in the world have the power to do what James Bond does? No, but we read it anyway, right? So that doesn't necessarily mean anything, right? And they don't have to not be realistic, right? But the problem is that sometimes they fall into tropes, I think, right? So people get tired of the same tropes. No, with romance, we want the actual romances, Jagtress. Yeah, sure, but I've read lots of good romances that are all about, like, you know, tension and realistic behavior. And, okay, actually, you want a good romance? Okay, here we go. I challenge you to read this book. It's called A Civil Campaign. It's written by a woman named Lois McMaster Bujold, and it's part of a space opera series. But it's a romance novel, and it's realistic as far as how people react to each other, and I think you'd love it. Right? Yeah. Read it. It's great. Yeah. But the point is, right, if you don't have, like, okay, you don't have to have romance in your story either. But romance is one of the things that drives humans, right? It's often a human motivation. Now, this isn't true of everybody, obviously. And yay, ace representation. I'm cool with that. But if you're going to write about people who aren't ace, right, romance is probably going to be a part of their life at some point. And whether it goes well or goes badly, if we don't know how they feel about it, then we don't know, like, we don't care, right? So these things can be part of other genres as well, and if you use them in those other genres, I think they enhance the story, right? Or they can. 5 stars for A Civil Campaign. Lois McMaster Bujold is her name. Yep. So this is a really well-written romance because, you know, there's tension, it's about their feelings, right? There's action. I like the fact that it's sort of unresolved at the end too. That's not often usual in the romance genre. Of course, as you well know, happy endings are the most common, right? Because part of the reason why people read romances is escapism. You know, maybe things have been kind of crappy in their own life and they want to see something good happen to somebody and experience it from that perspective. So, yeah. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you taking me up on it. I love that series, by the way. It's amazing. I've just been rereading it. James as a tiger goes to his basket. Pat the tiger's head. Good night. Sleep well. You do resolve it in the 4th story, but it's 4,200 words long. Awesome. Good. See, the thing about a good romance is there should be tension. A romance that just works isn't a romance, right? Because otherwise the story would be over, right? So where's the conflict, right? That's the key to a good romance, and there should be reasons why things don't work. I like this a lot, Eli. This is a good tale. I look forward to reading the resolution. Yep, happy endings are a requirement if you want to publish with a conventional publisher. Either happy for now or happy ever after. May I refer you to a friend of mine? Her name is C.L. Cannon, and she is the editor at Fiction Atlas Press. It is a small indie press, but they publish romance anthologies. I'm in one, and I can tell you for a fact that they do not have, there's a couple stories in there that don't necessarily have happy endings, right? She'll give you a shot. So if you would like to write a romance that has a tragic ending, she might be one to hit up. That's why I like Linda Potvien's books. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I've only ever seen it in print, but yeah. We're happy, no luck, never again. Yeah. I don't really know what you mean by that there, Akimoto's. But yeah. Anyway, yes. Sometimes romances do end tragically. Okay, here, to be honest, guys, depressing thought for the day, unless you think about it, right, and use it as a point of living a more liberating existence. All love stories end in tragedy. Inevitably. Right? Because even if you stay together for 60 years, eventually one of you dies. And then the other one is alone until they die. All the love stories are tragedies. This one ends tragically, but Gods and Magic being Gods and Magic, it gets better, says Eli. Spoilers, sorry. I knew that. You told me about that. I think that, see, the truth is any happily ever after is happy for now, ultimately, right? Moonflower says, I personally can't read anything without a happy ending, so I was kind of betrayed by the young elites. Forget the author. Everything was perfect, then the ending was very, very bad. No point in blowing things up without giving people reason to believe that things will blow up, so yeah, that's... Sudden twists... okay. Writing soapbox. Sudden twist endings that exist for the sole purpose of slapping the reader across the face are insulting. People who redesign their fandoms because the fandom guessed the ending are assholes. It's only fair to give people the tools to anticipate the ending within the story. If you're going to have a tragic ending, indicate that things could be tragic. You don't have to tell them it's going to be tragic, but have pain. If you have no pain, and then all of a sudden you have this tragic ending, it has no emotional impact for me. It just feels like a spit in my face, and I think that's true of anything. Don't do that to your reader. Okay? It's not fair. If they guess the ending, they're smart, you've done a good job, right? Because you have given them the tools to figure it out. Okay? There's my soapbox right there. I have many more, but that's that one. Yeah, Akimoto says, as in you are happy, but the story won't give you that anymore. How hard you search, look, want to. Fantasine says, happy ending required? Well, guess I'm going the self-published route. Yep. It's okay to kill off one of your main characters, but the survivor has to find happiness by the end. I think it's fine to have tragedy. I just think give people some indications in the story that it's going to end that way. Foreshadowing or, emotional timbre or tone, right? Moon says, I have to have the happy ending just because of my mental health. I don't blame people for writing unhappy endings or anything, just me. There's nothing wrong with a good happy ending either. I read in part for escapism. I also like happy endings, and what I really enjoy is Pyrrhic victories, okay? I enjoy happy endings, but there was a cost, and the cost has long-term effects. Because then I feel like the ending has finally been achieved with, great effort, and those are the things that make me cry, right? So that's what I like. Either with someone else or alone or unfulfilled, says Gwen. Yep. Get on that soapbox, it needs to be said. Booyah. Rowan says, I am the queen of tragic endings, preceded by a minimum of 5 years of happiness in real life. True story, dear. Moon says this author was setting up a series with this prequel, but she could have done it so much better. Fantasine says, my endings tend to be realistic to the story, so readers should know what's coming. Spoiler, I don't kill characters and will not read stuff by people I know that do. I think that's okay too, depending, right? Like if you've got multiple protagonists and you're going to kill one, right? If you're going to kill the protagonist, unless you're using that as a prologue, nah. What about the surprise? If you think you're smart but fooled and realize you were tricked, that's cool too, right? If there's a surprise and then you go back but okay, if the ending is a surprise ending, the reader should be able to go, oh, that's what was meant. Okay, and I get the references. I gotta reread the story now to see where I missed the, yeah, they indicated that there and that there and that there. Yeah, see, that's good too. I like those. Those are cool, right? One story that does that really well, which I will tell Moon right now never to read in their life, because they do not need this on their brain. I'm not sure I needed it on my brain, but the story is called I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, by a complete asshole of a human being who is nevertheless a really good science fiction writer. His name was Harlan Ellison. This is exactly that. Like, it's the ending, if you haven't been told about it and you haven't read the story, is a surprise. But when you go back and read everything, then you go, oh, of course. And it was actually kind of obvious. It's just that it's not something you think about, right? Moon says it was super unexpected too. The plan went great. Then you realize, oh, I stabbed the wrong person. Oh, that sucks. Yeah. Okay. The only way that works is if it's a Romeo and Juliet style. When Shakespeare wrote Romeo and Juliet, hey, the classics, right? Okay, and that's how it ends. We know that's how it ends, basically. Oh, mistaken. But the thing about it is, there were already indications that it was going to be tragic. Romeo and Juliet were from feuding families, two completely different worlds. If things didn't work out, right, that's sort of to be expected. You know, kind of like, you know, a lot of Chinese wuxia movies are like that, you know? The tragic love that is parted by duty. You expect that. It's part of the genre, right? But, you know, see, I mean, when you think about it, it's a bit of a surprise ending, right? If you've never read the story before, or read the play before, right? Then you're like, well, why did they just suddenly commit suicide? And they didn't even mean to. They did it for the wrong reasons and blah, right? But he indicated that it could be tragic by the obstacles that he set against the characters. So that's what I mean by, you know, set it up a bit. I could say something about Reaper Saga here, says Eli, but spoilers, damn it. I know, right? Sometimes you have to decide whether you're going to spoiler. Gwen says, no, Sable, I meant according to the requirements of romance publishers. Yeah. Romance publishers almost always insist on happy endings. They even have an abbreviation for it, HEA, right? If you don't have an HEA, they're not interested. They think that's a staple of the genre. I don't think it should be. Sometimes romances are not perfect. You want to know what I think is the best superhero romance story ever? Jagtress, you might agree with me on this one, because if you like realistic romances, best superhero romance ever, Deadpool, the first one. And I realize most people interpreted it as comic relief, but I loved the relationship between Deadpool and Domino. I loved it, right? Because they were exactly who they were, you know? They didn't try to put any, you know, paint on each other. They didn't have any idealized ideas. They accepted each other for exactly who they were. They had good boundaries. They, you know, they were willing to try new things and experiment. That's what I want in a romance. That's what romances should be like. You know, I thought that was brilliant, and nobody fucking appreciates it. I appreciate it. Yeah, romance publishers are a different thing entirely from others, from what I've heard. Yep. Soapboxes are good. I'm glad you guys think so. Victory earned through consequences are great stories. Yes. Oh, we have a Hero Forge of Dazzlecat. Awesome. I'm running out of time here in this stream. I got distracted. But I'm having a good time, and who's next on the 31 Days, 31 Stories calendar? Oh, hi guys, you're coming in just at the end, but hello Tal and hello Darth. Good to see you. Yep, totally agree with you, BC Brown. Ellison was a trash human being, but damn, he was a brilliant writer. Yep. Oh, hello Sage PhD. Welcome and thanks for the follow. Wow, so much. I'm never going to catch up on this chat, guys. Holy crap. You guys are lively today. Okay. We're going to have a look. Nice. Wow, you imitated it perfectly. Cool. Good job, Daz. I love that. Can you send me a copy of that? I'm going to put it on the Toy Soldier site too. That's awesome. I'm going to leave that up. Because, hey, I'm just yapping anyway, so I don't have to be looking at anything in particular. Alright. And besides, it's cool. Moon says it's basically a Romeo and Juliet, but it was out of the blue. Yeah, that's not okay. Everything was set up to work out great, but the last half chapter of the book was horribly wrong in a way you just don't get. Yeah, no, see, that's no fun, right? Part of the fun of being a reader is to see if you can anticipate how things are going to go. Slapping you out of nowhere might be realistic, but it's no fun. Right. Mr. Twinkle agrees, asshole of a human being. Yep, total, complete waste of fucking oxygen as far as a human being went. The stories are brilliant. Yeah. Oh, there's an alternate ending where Juliet wakes up in time? That's cool. Akimoto says the Iceland sagas are also very intriguing. Yeah, they tend to have sad endings, but it's how you meet your fate. It's important, right? The truth is, every story is a tragedy, guys. We're all gonna die. I hate to break it to you, but we are. So, are you gonna spend your life, bemoaning that? Or are you going to do what you can with what you got? Right? Haha. People agreeing with me on Deadpool. That's awesome. It's okay if you didn't like Deadpool. That's fine. I just thought that was the best superhero romance ever. I give you the best movie ending ever, says Rowan. Pale Rider. Pale Rider's okay, right? What happens at the end of Pale Rider, for those of you who haven't seen it, is he rides off and he doesn't, stay with the girl. But there were indications through the whole movie that that's what he would do, because he was resisting getting involved and was very much a loner. So, you were allowed to anticipate it. I'm a fan of The Princess Bride. Me too, right? Actually a wonderfully written romance with a happy ending. So, just different. Gwen's like, okay, back to reading my romance serial. That's awesome. Even gave her a smirk. You totally did. Dazzle looks great. Yeah, it will totally work. Because none of us want to write today. I am totally procrastinating on that one. Moon says, by the way, Sable Aradia, I post the character sheet for the Toy Soldiers chat crew. Are you not in the chat crew channel? There is a chat crew channel on the Discord. I'll go to the Discord and make sure you're in it. Yeah, you're in it. Just a minute here. Yeah, you should be in the channel. It's under Gaming and RP channels, and there's Toy Soldiers Old School. You should be, and Toy Soldiers Crew. Right? So yeah, Toy Soldiers Crew. That's where that goes. BC Brown says, in truth, so many classic writers were trash human beings, but brilliant writers. Humans are humans. Just because somebody's a good writer doesn't mean they're a good human, you know? You meet people who've never heard... shaking my head. Akimoto's like, I still meet people who've never heard of it. I am Inigo Montoya. My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. Sad. None of us are getting out of here alive, says Gwen. That's right. That's right. We're not sheltered people. This is true. Oh, look, says Moon. Okay. And Daz says, I DM'd you the file, Sable. Excellent. Thank you very much. Perfect. I'm going to see who's on for 31 days, 31 stories now, because it's time to raid. It's 3 o'clock. Thank you all for joining me today. I really had a great time. I, got a real minimal of writing done, but I had a great time. Should I take liberties with the cover art for the character backstory article? Define what you mean, but probably. Let's see. We have the real Salties, who's up. We have... Actually, I should probably see who's actually up on Twitch, shouldn't I? Okay, because just because people say they're up, don't mean they're up. Michelle Right Meow, however, is up. And I've been meaning to raid her for a while, so that's what we're going to do. She's doing 31 days, 31 stories. Nappy time for Akimoto's. Sleep well. I know it's late where you are. Good night. Eli says, by the way, Sable, if you want something to read for fun, I'll send you the full story. Awesome. I don't know when I'll get to it, but I will. Michelle Writes Meow is a really nice person who I like her quiet, mellow streams. She's trying very hard to do 31 stories in 31 days. I don't know if she's succeeding any better than I am, probably because I'm way behind, but check her out. It gives me a good opportunity because we have not rated her before. Thank you so much again, everyone. I will be back tomorrow for Diane Actually Writes, which is where I supposedly actually get some writing done, starting at the same time, which is noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. UTC, 8 p.m. in the UK, and 5 o'clock in the stupid morning at Australian Eastern Time. Okay, I will look at it. Jazz will do. Right, and yeah. Write me a story about Aiden Moonflower. Okay, I can do that. Oh, Michelle Write Meow, okay. Yeah, and then Aaron will be back on Friday for Ask an Old GM at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. UTC, 10 p.m. in the UK, 7 o'clock in the morning on Saturday for you people in Australian Eastern Time. And yeah, this was a lot of fun. I will see you guys again soon. Have a great time zone when you get to Michelle. Don't forget to yell, prepare to be boarded, because we are the Sable's Privateers. Thank you so much for the follows today to BC Brown Books, to Chansey Twitch, and to Sage PhD, which is a really cool handle, actually. And I'll see you over on Michelle's channel. Bye for now.